Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a really fascinating tension that's defining our modern economy right now. We're looking at how our booming, seemingly limitless digital world is fiercely colliding with some very real, immovable physical limits. I'm your host, and I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through the data that's defining July 2026. So, let's just dive right into this. What do Apple's chip shortages, $90 oil, and European wildfires have in common? Well, understanding the hidden link between these seemingly totally unrelated events is absolutely key to grasping today's global landscape. On the surface, consumer electronics, Middle Eastern shipping lanes, and European air quality feel entirely disconnected, right? But as we'll see today, they're actually all symptoms of the exact same friction. Our digital demands completely outstripping our physical world's capacity to deliver.
To connect all these dots, here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the big tech divide. Second, global choke points and energy risks. Third, climate, health, and hazards. And finally, we'll wrap up with what this means for the new career reality.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the big tech divide, which is really a tale of two giants. Look at these two entirely different trajectories. You've got Amazon accelerating with a massive 14% stock surge, all riding on this explosive cloud demand. But then meanwhile, you have Apple facing a staggering 9% drop. That is a decline threatening to wipe out nearly $500 billion from its market value. And the crazy thing? The reason for Apple's drop isn't a lack of consumer desire. People still want iPhones. The culprit is severe physical supply constraints.
Let's look at the digital ambition side of the equation first. $220 billion. That staggering number represents Amazon's planned 2026 capital spending. It just goes to show that massive, literally unprecedented infrastructure investments are required just to meet all that heavily reserved future AI computing capacity. Amazon is basically pouring cash into concrete, steel, and servers because the digital demand is already there knocking at the door.
And Wall Street's reaction to all of this is super fascinating. Amazon Web Services saw an incredible 37% revenue growth, hitting $42.2 billion. Yet simultaneously, their trailing 12-month free cash flow dropped to a negative $7.6 billion. But investors are actively, willingly forgiving this negative cash flow in exchange for aggressive AI infrastructure capture. It's a massive capital drain. And we saw a similar thing with Meta, whose free cash flow plummeted 91% as their AI infrastructure costs just soared. So the crucial point here is that strong demand alone simply does not guarantee success anymore. What we're really looking at is a direct chain reaction. First, enterprise AI demand explodes, which then forces data centers to absolutely hoard memory and advanced processors. Because the physical supply of these chips is strictly limited, consumer electronics companies, like Apple, end up facing severe component shortages. This exact sequence is what's capping Apple's ability to satisfy what is otherwise really strong consumer demand for iPhones and MacBooks right now. Because of this hard physical supply ceiling, we're seeing the broader market react pretty aggressively. The Philadelphia Semiconductor Index fell roughly 20% in July, which, by the way, marks its worst month since the 2008 financial crisis. So the boom has officially shifted away from this general euphoric AI narrative. Now investors are heavily distinguishing among AI companies based strictly on execution, utilization, and whether they can actually physically build and power these systems.
Moving right along to Section 2, global choke points and energy risks, or really the physical toll of all this. Looking impartially at the facts on the ground, the continuing war with Iran is directly impacting physical shipping lanes. Tehran recently blocked 2 vessels from exiting the Strait of Hormuz and turned back 4 others. This is alongside launching drone attacks against American bases in Kuwait and Bahrain, though thankfully there were no reported casualties there. In response to this tightening physical constraint, President Trump convened his cabinet at Camp David to specifically discuss the conflict and, crucially, how to manage rising gasoline prices ahead of the midterm elections.
Meanwhile, the international response is fracturing into a few distinct strategies. The United States continues blockading Iranian oil exports. Oman, on the other hand, is attempting to preserve diplomatic discussions to set up a managed transit system. And over in the Red Sea, 14 countries are now formally supporting a Saudi-led maritime defense coalition. Essentially, every nation is scrambling right now to protect these vital physical routes. And the immediate result of all this maritime friction? $90. That's the price Brent crude oil just crossed. In fact, Brent completed a massive 23 to 24% gain in the month of July alone. This was driven directly by these vessel restrictions and the return of a massive shipping risk premium being priced right back into the oil market.
The stakes here are just incredibly high. To put it into perspective, under normal operations, 20% of the entire world's oil shipments pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Because of that major physical bottleneck, shipping data and vessel permissions negotiated with Iranian authorities are now moving global energy markets just as rapidly as military announcements. It's wild. Physical ship movements are quite literally dictating the price of global energy.
Let's shift gears to Section 3, Climate, Health, and Hazards, the environmental cost.
This staggering number, 18 million metric tons, is the amount of carbon dioxide scientists report was released by European wildfires in 2026. This officially marks France's highest wildfire-related emissions in available monitoring data. And what's deeply concerning is the cyclical nature of this whole thing. Burning forests release massive amounts of stored carbon, which then directly weakens the forest's future ability to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. It's a tough loop to break.
This creates an immediate, very real danger to human populations. Wildfire smoke is exposing millions of Europeans to harmful fine particle pollution. Bordeaux recorded PM 2.5 concentrations above 300 micrograms per cubic meter, and Limoges exceeded 400. To put that into perspective, standard safe air quality is typically under 12. These fine particles easily enter the lungs and the bloodstream, heavily elevating respiratory and cardiovascular risks for everyday people.
The physical reality here is just immense. The Landes fire alone burned 42,000 hectares of pine forest. So even as weather conditions slightly improve in parts of France and Spain, the physical disruption to ordinary life, agriculture, hospitality, and local economies is profound. Summer travel around Athens is being threatened, and local vineyards near Bordeaux are actively having to assess severe damage and lost revenue right now.
Adding to this public health strain, our fundamental preventative infrastructure is proving highly vulnerable. Michigan is currently managing a massive outbreak of over 8,100 cases of foodborne cyclosporiasis, which has prompted a multi-state federal inquiry. Simultaneously, the U.S. just hit a 35-year high with 2,318 measles cases. This perfectly correlates with national MMR vaccination coverage falling to 92.5%. It's a really stark reminder that physical health infrastructure requires constant, reliable maintenance and execution.
Finally, let's explore Section 4, the new career reality and how you can adapt to this collision.
Because of these massive supply shortages and extreme physical environments we've been talking about, the job market is shifting radically. Employers are frankly desperate for specialists who can manage logistics and deal with these physical realities. We're seeing exploding demand for data center cooling specialists, semiconductor procurement experts who can hunt down alternative memory suppliers, maritime shipping analysts and insurers, and AI security teams who can strictly monitor physical access and deterministic permissions.
Ultimately, the winners in this new economy aren't just going to be those with the best software ideas. The true, durable career advantage belongs to the people, the companies, and the leaders who can bridge the gap between our boundless digital ambitions and the incredibly strict limitations of our physical world. Execution in the physical space is everything right now.
As technology, geopolitics, and our environment collide in real time, from server farms all the way to the Strait of Hormuz, the physical world is demanding a seat at the digital table. So I want to leave you with this to ponder. Is your industry prepared for the physical costs of our digital future? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the realities around you.